task was to argue against higher education. So I had to know about higher education in order to argue against it. What am I saying is this, is that we have to do some real critical thinking. Now, Daniel, in doing his critical thinking, there was an outcome that took place. We find out that after 10 days, Daniel and his friends looked healthier than the other young men. The official, Aspenaz, allowed them to continue their diet, and God gave them knowledge and understanding beyond that of the other young men. Eventually, Daniel rose to a high position in the king's court, so much so that he was able to influence other kings and nations. Now, let me tell you a little bit more about Daniel's critical thinking. See, Daniel questioned the assumption. Just because somebody says something doesn't mean that it's accurate. Just because somebody says something convincingly doesn't mean it's truthful. We have to consider assumptions. Now, he didn't consider the king's food as the only path to health. When someone says, I am the only solution that you have, I am the only way that you can get out of it, there's a problem with that right there. Because the only way to do something is not the only way to do it. There's always more than one way to do things. I can walk on my hands. I used to anyway. But hands were not made to walk on. Our feet were made to walk on. We find out that after 10 days, Daniel proved himself, and he showed that he had evaluated the risk, he devised a rational test, and he reached a successful outcome that honored both God and the authority that was over him. My question for you is, what do you stand for? Today, people's actions indicate what they do not do because they are not exercising critical thinking. In other words, what they do indicates that they haven't really thought things out. When you think things out, you think of consequences, you think of solutions, and you don't just think about yourself, you think about other people. There's a lot of things that I quit doing as a parent, even before I got saved, because I didn't want to bring havoc upon my children. I was thinking about my children, critically thinking about their futures. Critical thinking is the ability to think clearly. Critical thinking is the ability to think rationally. Critical thinking is the ability to question assumptions and to access evidence. Critical thinking is a way to make things well-reasoned so you can have well-reasoned decisions. This is very, very important. For instance, people gravitate towards charismatic leaders. A few of the charismatic leaders that you might recall: Charles Manson, very convincing, flamboyant personality, made things sound really good, made things sound truthful, caused people to do things that he didn't do himself. He just pointed and told them to do it, and they did it, to their detriment. But then there was Jim Jones, charismatic leader, preached the word of God, even deceived people by acting like he healed a lot of people, did a lot of different things, took a lot of people out of the country, drank Kool-Aid, and they all died. Interesting. Then there was Adolf Hitler, very convincing, 5'4", but yet he convinced a lot of people to follow him. A strong leader, very charismatic. But think about this. The people that followed these individuals I mentioned, did they investigate opposing opinions? Hitler was known for burning all the books. Why do we want to burn books and take books out of libraries today? We don't want people to think. We don't want people to think because they might start thinking critically, wondering the ins and outs of what might not happen or what might happen. Do they ask meaningful questions? Probably not. Do this. Okay. And they do it. Do they identify biases? You know, when you have a chance to look at your biases, and we all have had them, you got to really make a decision as to, are you going to allow your biases to control your life or not? When I took English 101, my English instructor, who got rid of half the class the first day, because she told him what she was going to do and what she was not going to tolerate in the summer class, when we showed up the next day, only 12 of us was in the class. But you know what? She says, I'm an atheist. And she went down the list of all the things she was, dressed in her gothic black with her fiery red, natural red hair. Everything I wrote about in that class was controversial. My final paper was, why you must worship God. Yes, she was atheist. I got an A- in that class. But you know what? She said that she would judge things honestly, and she would not let her biases come into place, and I took her at her word. I took her at her word. And because of that, I received that grade that I did. Now, I want to share with you that we find out that people do things, they recognize logical connections if they think critically. They look at falsities if they look at things critically. They draw reasoned conclusions if they look at things critically. For instance, most people have car insurance. So you go out and you get an insurance quote. You get this quote, one quote comes in at $895. Oh man, insurance is expensive. But you don't stop there. You don't just pay that quote, $895. You get another quote. It comes in at $235. You go, $895, $235. I think I need a third quote. So you get a third quote, and it's for $450. You think I'll go with the middle one. That sounds more reasonable. They all offer the same service. They all seem to be reputable. They all seem to have the best value. But 2 something, 8 something, 4 something, what do you want to pay? You were thinking critically in order to do that. Now that's on car insurance. But what about life insurance? Same thing. Should I get term insurance or should I get whole insurance? Should I buy the insurance when I'm 22 or wait till I get 62? These are things you take in consideration for what you want. But people don't always think about natural things. Sometimes they forget about natural things. For instance, natural-wise, people would get on Instagram and they would buy some pills. They would listen to the spiel, not for 2 minutes, for 22 minutes. And then the person say, you got to buy this right now. Buy this pill. We put all these ingredients together for you, and this will heal you of any ailment that you have. But today's the last day. As a matter of fact, we only got a few left. You need to buy within the next 5 minutes. And they buy those things and get them and take them. They didn't critically think. They didn't contact their doctor. They didn't look at the ingredients that the person said was in the pill that they were buying. They didn't consider how long the pill would last. There's no expiration date that they know of. No critical thinking. But yet they buy these pills and they take them. What about their life? Spiritually, when we think about thinking critically, we need to triangulate. We can't just look at things from one aspect. We have to look at several aspects, which means we need to consider several things. Even in scientific studies, they tell you, don't just look at one source. Look at another source. Yes, you're going to hear some things you don't like. Yes, you're going to hear some things you don't want to hear. But that's life. You take all the information that you have and you make the best decision. People take their lives and they spend little time checking into God. There's a lot of people talking about God. They say, you know, I'm just going to live my life in no kind of way, and what happens is going to happen. But is that factual? Of course, you never heard anybody come back from the dead talk to you, but what about the preparation? There are holy books out there that you can read. There are people that you can talk to that are in these different religions that you can get information